Welcome back to the Lightning Bolt Chronicles. If you're returning, thank you for returning and sticking with us. If it is your first time, welcome to the Lightning Bolt Chronicles. I am your co-host, Christina McCrazy. Anything that you want to know about me, in addition to my other two podcasts and merch and all of that good stuff, can be found at this link right here. And co-host, please introduce yourself.
Hi, magical friends. It is Erica, your local Hufflepuff. And I don't know what else to say other than today's my last day of my holiday, and I gotta go back to work tomorrow.
Way to start it on the sunny side. Oh, what about the Instagram place?
Oh yeah, I'm Poodle Noodle 82. Happy Instagrammy place.
Oh, trying to think if there was anything I wanted to share this time. Why did I feel like there was something? Did I get something new? I don't think so.
Okay. Tell people today is my last day of my holiday, and then I have to go back to work tomorrow. No, that wasn't your news.
That was not my news. No, actually, remember, my news was that my baby had her first vet appointment today.
She did.
She did, and she did very well. And then she got some doggy ice cream. Yay! And then she came home and turned back into the little heathen that she is.
You're such a dog mom now.
I am. It's weird. It's weird. It's like something clicked back. She's just as bad as human. Well, we'll see. We'll see if she's just as bad as human babies. So far, she's much more cuddly. And she gives lots more kisses. Anyway, shall we get into it?
Let's do it.
All right. Moving into new characters and chapter summary, we are on chapter. What? I was getting there. I was getting there. I didn't forget. I was getting there. We are, even though, yeah, it's because I messed up, huh? It's because I messed up the trivia. This is Chronicle 114, which means we are on Book 1, Chapter 14. The title of this chapter is Norbert the Norwegian Ridgeback. This is just a fun chapter. Okay, so if you guys remember, in the last chapter, we left... Oh, wait, let me not just jump into the chapter summary. I have to tell you the new characters we meet. So obviously, we're going to meet Norbert because title character. And then, again, there's a mention of Charlie Weasley. And this time, we actually meet some friends of Charlie's. Mm-hmm. And so those are the new characters this chapter. Mm-hmm. Now, if you recall, in the last chapter, we ended up where they were discussing how the security of the Sorcerer's Stone depended on Quirrell standing up to Snape. And Ron's words, the very last line of the chapter was, well, the stone will be gone by next Tuesday. Now, I remind you of that because the way this chapter starts out, Quirrell is braver than they thought. And so they're going around, and every time Harry sees Quirrell, he's giving him an encouraging smile, like, you can do it. And, right. And Ron's like telling people off for making fun of Quirrell's stutter in the hallways. And Hermione would be involved, except there's 10 weeks until exams, and she's already behind on the study schedules that she's making and color coding, which would be fine with Harry and Ron, except that she keeps nagging them to do the same. Right. And so she's just being Hermione, right? So anyway, the teachers are also kind of piling it on a little bit. They know that exams are coming, and so they all have a little extra work. So they're spending some time in the library. So they're in the library, they're studying. Hermione's doing the scheduling thing and being snippy and naggy like she does. When all of a sudden Ron looks up and he's like, "Hey, Hagrid, what are you doing in the library?" And Hagrid's like, "Oh, nothing, just looking at something." But they know Hagrid well enough to know that he's saying it kind of shady-like, which means that you don't want them to know what it is that he's looking for. And he's like, "Oh, nothing. What are you guys up to? You're not still looking for Flamel, are you?" And Harry's like, "Oh, yeah, no, we figured that out ages ago. Ages ago." So they're like, "But now what we're trying to figure out is, other than Fluffy, what's guarding the Sorcerer's Stone?" Shh. Hagrid's like, "Shh. What are you talking about? I don't know. Like, don't talk about it here. They're gonna think that I told you. Come by later and we'll talk about it."
But
so they're like,
I'm not promising
right. Yeah, I'm not promising you anything, but at least you won't be talking about it in the middle of the library where other people might be able to overhear. So he goes off, and then they're like, "Hey, what was he being so shady about? Anybody? Did you see him hiding something behind his back? What was he hiding behind his back?" And Ron's like, "I'm tired of working." Well, he didn't say I'm tired of working anyway, but he was tired of working anyway. So he's like, "Oh, I'll go see what section he was in." He comes back and he plops these books down on the table. "Dragons," he whispered. "Hagrid was looking up stuff about dragons. Look at these. Dragon species of Great Britain and Ireland. From Egg to Inferno, a Dragon Keeper's Guide." Harry's like, "Yeah, he's always wanted one. He told me when I very, very first met him. So, whatever." Ron's like, "But you can't keep dragons. It's against the law." Like, he said, "Dragon breeding was outlawed by the Warlocks Convention of 1709. Everyone knows that." Did you know that? Because I didn't know that. But everyone knows that. Because, And so they're like, he's like, "Yeah, there's wild dragons, but you can't keep them as pets." And like the ministry has like had to modify humans or modify Muggles' brain memories when they've run into dragons or whatever. They're just, there's some out in the wild. And then Harry's like, "Wait, but there's not none in Britain, right?" And Ron's like, "Sure there are. There's common Welsh greens and Hebridean blacks." So then they're like, "Well, if that's the case, what is Hagrid doing?" Bum, bum, bum. So they go down to Hagrid's house. And when they get there to discuss Nicholas Flamel, he's like, "Yeah, so you wanted to ask me something?" But the curtains are all closed. It's like the first day that feels like summer is coming. And the curtains are all closed, and he has a fire going on, and it's stifling hot. And they're like, "What the heck?" Okay, whatever. So he's like, "So you guys wanted to ask me something?" And Harry's like, "Yeah, what's guarding the stone besides Fluffy?" And Hagrid's like, "First of all, I don't know. Second of all, even if I did, why would I tell you?" And then Hermione kicks in and she, flatters him a little bit. She knows exactly what to say. So she's like, "Oh no, Hagrid, we don't want you to tell us anything you're not supposed to. Mostly we just want to know who else was helping Dumbledore guard the stone. Who else did Dumbledore trust as much as he trusts you?" And of course that works. And then Hagrid's like, "Oh, all right. Well, it was Professor Flitwick, Professor Snape, Professor Sprout, of course Dumbledore himself, Professor Quirrell, and there's one more. Who was it? Oh yeah, Professor Snape." And they're like, "Snape?" And he's like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh, okay." So they're thinking he probably knows. Snape probably, because they're thinking that Snape is trying to steal the stone, figuring
Of course.
Snape knows how to get past every security measure except for Quirrell's, because why else is he harassing Quirrell to try to get his little bit of magic, right?
Yeah.
So then Harry's like, well, Hagrid, nobody else knows how to get past Fluffy, right? And Hagrid's like, no, of course not. Just me and Dumbledore. And so they're like, okay. That should, gives them a little bit of relief. But then all of a sudden, they're really hot. And Harry's like, dude, can we crack a window? And Hagrid's like, nope, sorry, can't do that, and kind of glances at the fire. And so they all glance at the fire, and Harry says, Hagrid, what is that? But he already knows what it is, because as soon as he sees it, he immediately knows what it is. There's a giant black egg in the fire underneath the kettle. And so Ron's like, where'd you get it from? And he said he won it in a game of cards the night before from a stranger in the village. And Hermione's like, well, what are you going to do when it hatches then? And Hagrid's like, oh, I've been doing a little reading. The book he got out of the library was Dragon Breeding for Pleasure and Profit. And he says, it's a bit out of date, of course, but it's all in there. Keep the egg in the fire because their mothers breathe on them. See, and when it hatches, feed it on. What are they feeding it when it hatches, Erica?
Brandy and blood.
A bucket of brandy mixed with chicken blood every half hour.
Hold on, sorry, my contact fell out.
No worries. So then you got to, once it hatches, you got to feed it on a bucket of brandy mixed with chicken blood every half hour.
Yeah.
And then he said he had looked and he'd learned to recognize the different eggs. And what he had there was a Norwegian Ridgeback, and that was rare. And he looked really pleased with himself. Hermione says, but Hagrid, you live in a wooden house. But Hagrid ain't trying to hear it. Hagrid's humming along, stoking his little fire under his little dragon egg. Okay.
Yeah.
So now they're like, great. Now we have something else to worry about. Hagrid's got a dragon. Well, not Hagrid's got a friggin' dragon, right? So then they're at breakfast one morning. Oh no, actually, let's not skip over Ron being like, wonder what it's like to have a peaceful life. And so they're at breakfast one morning, and Hedwig brings.
Wasn't there someone eavesdropping in on that conversation?
No, not yet. So they're at breakfast. Hedwig brings Harry a note. The note just says, it's hatching. Great. Harry and Ron want to just go straight down there, but Hermione's like, no, we have herbology. We can't skip class. We're going to get in trouble. And if we don't, even now as we get in trouble, then like no telling what kind of trouble Hagrid's going to get into when people are figuring out. And then Harry yells, shut up. Because he's just realized Malfoy's close by.
Mm-hmm.
And he don't like the look on Malfoy's face. And he don't know what Malfoy might have just heard. So they go to herbology. They're whispering the whole time, whispering, making sure he's not listening. Soon as herbology's over, they drop everything like it's friggin' hot potatoes and hightail it to Hagrid's hut. They get there, Hagrid lets them in, and he's like, oh, it's nearly out. And the egg's on the table, and it's hatching. And they draw their chairs up to watch this stupid thing hatch. And then all at once, there was a scraping noise, and the egg split open. The baby dragon flopped onto the table. It wasn't exactly pretty. Harry thought it looked like a crumpled black umbrella. Its tiny wings were huge compared to its skinny jet body. It had a long snout with wide nostrils, the stubs of horns and bulging orange eyes. It sneezed. A couple of sparks flew out of its snout. Isn't he beautiful? Hagrid murmured. He reached out a hand to stroke the dragon's head. It snapped at his fingers, showing pointed fangs. Bless him. Look, he knows his mummy, said Hagrid. So now Hermione's completely alarmed, and she's like, Hagrid, how big do they get? And Hagrid was about to answer, but then the color drained from his face. And they're like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And he's like, somebody was looking in the gap through the curtains. It was a student. And Harry runs to the window and he looks out, and there's no mistaking the platinum blonde head running away from the cabin. It's Draco. And Draco has seen the dragon. So now Draco knows that Hagrid has a dragon. Fantastic. Yep. And so it says something about the smile lurking on Malfoy's face during the next week made Harry, Ron, and Hermione very nervous.
But I think it's really interesting to note that he's basically like holding it over their heads, right? Like
rather than telling and getting them in trouble.
Yeah.
Because he gets pleasure from being a jerk. We've already said this.
Yeah.
So, okay. So now they're nervous because Malfoy knows, and they're actually helping Hagrid. So they're going down to his head, helping him feed it and all this stuff. But while they're doing that, they're trying to convince Hagrid, dude, you can't keep the dragon, especially now that Malfoy knows about it. Like, he could tell Dumbledore at any friggin' time. And Harry's like, just let him go. Set him free. And he's like, no, I can't. He's too little. He'll die. Now, at this point, while he was too little, he's going to die. The dragon's already grown 3 times the size it was when it came out of the egg. Right? Yeah. It's been like a week.
Yeah. 3 times.
And Hagrid is like not even keeping up with his gamekeeper duties because he's tending to this dragon.
Right.
And it's keeping him so busy, right? There's empty brandy bottles everywhere. There's chicken feathers everywhere. It's just a mess, right? And then they're still trying to convince him, come on, Hagrid, this isn't sustainable. This isn't good. And this fool opens his mouth and says, I've decided to call him Norbert, said Hagrid, looking at the dragon with misty eyes. He really knows me now. Watch. Norbert, where's Mummy? So Ron leans over and whispers to Harry, dude, he's lost his marbles. And then Harry has a thought, and he's like, oh! And he turns to Ron, and he's like, Charlie! And Ron's like, you've lost your marbles too. I'm Ron. Harry's like, no. Charlie! Can we give the dragon to Charlie? And they can take care of him over there with the rest of them and then release him into the wild? Can we do that? And Ron's like, dude, that's such a great idea. I can ask him. And so he sends an owl to Charlie, and it takes about a week for him to get back. A whole nother week of dealing with this dragon getting bigger and Malfoy knowing what's going on. And they get a note from, first, Ron comes back from having helped feed the dragon. He comes in the invisibility cloak. It's about midnight, and he's like, dang, it bit me. And he's got a bloody handkerchief wrapped around his hand, and they're just, he's going off. He's like, yeah, this thing is a monster, and Hagrid's talking about it like it's a little fluffy bunny. Like, once it's gone, he said when I left, he was singing it a lullaby. So they're just waiting to get rid of this friggin' dragon. And then, perfect timing, Hedwig comes tapping at the window. He's got a note. It's from Charlie. The note says, Dear Ron, how are you? Thanks for the letter. I'd be glad to take the Norwegian Ridgeback, but it won't be easy getting him here. I think the best thing will be to send him over with some friends of mine who are coming to visit me next week. Trouble is, they mustn't be seen carrying an illegal dragon. Could you get the Ridgeback up the tallest tower at midnight on Saturday? They can meet you there and take him away while it's still dark. Send me an answer as soon as possible. Love, Charlie. So they're like, all right, well, we've got the invisibility cloak. I think we can fit 2 of us and Norbert underneath the invisibility cloak, get up there at midnight and do this thing and get rid of it. And it says, It was a mark of how bad the last week had been that the other 2 agreed with him. Anything to get rid of Norbert and Malfoy. So then the next morning, Ron's bitten hand has swollen to twice its size. And Ron's like, dang, like, do you think it's safe to go to Madame Pomfrey? Because maybe she's going to recognize that it's a dragon bite. She's going to wonder where the heck I got bitten by a dragon. But by that afternoon, he didn't have any choice. It had kind of started to turn green, and he had to go to Mrs. Pomfrey because it looks like Norbert's fangs might have been poisonous. So when they come to visit him, he tells them, it's not just my hand. I don't know whether Madame Pomfrey knows what really happened because I told her I got bit by a dog. But Malfoy came to visit and told me that he was going to tell Madame Pomfrey what I really got bitten by. And he told her that he needed to borrow a book. I shouldn't have hit him when we were playing Quidditch. That's why he's doing this. That's why he's doing this. So Harry and Hermione say, it's all right. It's good. Midnight Saturday. Norbert will be gone. We won't have to worry about it anymore. And then Ron's like, oh! And he sits bolt upright. And he's like, midnight on Saturday? Turns out the note that Charlie wrote was in the book that Malfoy took.
Uh-oh.
So now he's going to know that they're getting rid of the dragon that he knows about already.
Right.
Great. So then Madame Pomfrey made them leave because Ron needed his sleep. And Harry tells Hermione, hey, it's too late to change the plan. We don't have enough time to send Charlie a letter. We're just going to have to see what we can do. At least we have the invisibility cloak, right? Well, Malfoy doesn't know about the invisibility cloak. So when they go down to Hagrid's to tell him that it's all that
to Hagrid's that Charlie was going to.
Yeah, they were gonna. Well, I wonder why they hadn't already told him. That's weird. Oh, because it was only the next day. Okay. So they go down to tell Hagrid about Charlie's letter, and they find Fang sitting outside with his tail bandaged up. and then when they knock on the door, Hagrid's like, I can't let you guys in. Norbert's in a tricky stage right now. And he says, oh, it's nothing I can't handle. And Norbert bites him on the leg as they're talking, and he's like, ah! And he's like, it's all right. He only got my boot. He's just playing. He's only a baby after all. And then it says, the baby banged its tail on the wall, making the windows rattle. And Harry and Hermione walked away feeling like Saturday couldn't come fast enough. So now they're feeling sorry for Hagrid because it's time for the friggin' dragon to go. And of course, Hagrid's in tears because he's going to miss his baby and he doesn't want to send him away. And yeah. So it's a dark and cloudy night and they were a bit late arriving. And it said, this was another funny one for me. They were late arriving because they had to wait in the entrance hall for Peeves to get out of the way because he was in the entrance hall playing tennis against the wall. And they don't want to give themselves away. They're underneath the invisibility cloak. They're not supposed to be wandering around close to midnight, right? Okay. So when they get there, so it's Hermione and Harry, because remember, Ron's in the hospital wing. Hermione and Harry get there. Hagrid's got Norbert all packed up, and he's like, oh, he's got rats and brandy for the journey, and I've packed his teddy bear. And then Harry hears a sound from inside the crate that sounds like that poor teddy bear is getting decimated. And Hagrid's crying, bye-bye, Norbert. Mommy will never forget you. And then Harry and Hermione are like, all right, we got to do this. And they never knew how they did it because midnight's ticking closer. They're carrying this dragon in a crate underneath an invisibility cloak. Almost midnight, trying not to get caught, not to be seen. The tallest tower in the castle. Because remember, we talked about how many stairs they must have to do. Right? Okay. And they used one of Harry's shortcuts, and that still didn't make it too much easier, right? So just as they're nearly there, they see some movement, and they're like, ah! And they shrink into the shadows because they forgot they have on the invisibility cloak, but even still. So they shrink into the shadows, and they see two people grappling with each other and a lamp. And then Professor McGonagall comes by in a bathrobe and a hairnet, and she's got Malfoy by the ear. And she's like, detention! And 20 points from Slytherin, wandering around in the middle of the night. How dare you? And Malfoy says, but you don't understand, Professor. Harry Potter's coming. He's got a dragon. To which Professor McGonagall replies, "What utter rubbish! How dare you tell such lies? Come on! I shall see Professor Snape about you, Malfoy." So, they see that Malfoy's got detention. They're super happy about that. And then it says that the steep spiral staircase up to the top of the tower seemed to be the easiest thing in the world after that.
Yeah.
So they get up there, they take off the cloak, they're outside in the cold night air. Hermione does a little jig. "Malfoy's got detention. I could sing." "Don't," Harry advised her. So then they're waiting, and Norbert's thrashing around in his crate. And then about 10 minutes later, Harry's friends show up. There's 4 people. They're super jolly. They're like friendly and all. And they're like, yeah. What did I say?
Harry's friends?
Oh, I meant Charlie's friends. My bad. Charlie's friends show up. It says they're a super cheery lot. And they show them the system that they rigged up between the 4 brooms so that they could carry the crate. Loaded up the dragon, and they took off, shook hands, thanked them very, very much. Harry and Hermione are like, "Yeah, Norbert is gone." They slip back down the staircase. They're like, "Yeah, Norbert's gone. Malfoy's in detention. What could spoil all of this?"
Nothing.
The answer to that was waiting at the foot of the stairs. As they stepped into the corridor, Filch's face loomed suddenly out of the darkness. "Well, well, well," he whispered. "We are in trouble." They'd left the invisibility cloak on top of the tower.
Uh-oh.
Bum, bum, bum. And that, my friends, is the end of chapter 14.
I have questions.
Okay.
How can Charlie's friends enter Hogwarts?
They didn't. Oh, wait, but they did.
They entered the airspace.
They did. I mean, I don't know. You kind of have to know where it is and all of that kind of stuff. I would imagine for them to even know where it was, to be able to meet them at the top of the tower, they're alumni. Maybe alumni can get in.
No, because nobody else is supposed to be able to get in. I thought that there were strict rules and enchantments in place so that people can't find. Is it just people who are not alumni?
I don't know. Because then the other thing too is, what about Moldy Voldy? And he can't get in, but he's also alumni, so.
Yeah, but he has dark magic. He might have something else.
I don't know. That's an interesting question. How did they get into the airspace? But I obviously always assumed that they were alumnus because they even knew where the top most tower of Hogwarts even was to begin with. Hogwarts.
Because even in like Fantastic Beasts and stuff like that, they have to come through the front door. They have to be let in, and then you're not allowed to operate within Hogwarts and blah 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 blah. Although the Ford Anglia does fly in, we'll soon find out.
I don't know. That's interesting because they did. They just flew on to the top tower, like
they flew right in. How is it that in the time, like from Hagrid's hut to the top of the tallest tower, Norbert does not shoot flames
or make a sound?
Yeah.
Maybe the movement?
Is the invisibility cloak fireproof?
That's a good question. Because it's not soundproof.
Dragon fireproof too. Because dragon
fire is soundproof. So if the dragon was thrashing around the whole time, which it should have been based on the dragon's personality, unless being in the crate and being moving actually kind of subdued it a little bit. Yeah, there's no way, even hiding in the shadows, that they hid that dragon, because it would have been thrashing about in the crate. Somebody would have heard something. Yeah, you're right. I didn't even think about that. What else?
Those were like my main what kind of questions.
Oh, okay. That's the chapter.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about, and this is going to be a big one. You know.
Oh,
all right, guys. It is time for book versus movie. Bum, bum, bum. Okay. Let's just start by saying that this chapter wasn't even in the movie, basically.
It's like 3 seconds of the movie.
Yeah. So, to give you guys a little background, we refreshed ourselves about the movie. It had been a while since I had seen it. Probably had been a while since you had seen it too.
Okay, wait. What does a while mean to normal people? Because you and I watched it together when you were here. And
yeah, but I was there in December. It's now May.
Is that a while?
I mean, if you want to try to remember the details at the level that we're trying to compare the book versus the movie, yeah. That's why we watched it together, remember? Also, a lot of the movie and the book follow up until about this point. Now, there are things there are details that aren't in the movie, but it still kind of follows, and we were able to give you guys that. But
now we're
this is kind of where it deviates a little bit, and we wanted to go back and like get our memory back of what's book versus what's movie and what the differences are. And so one of the very first things we noticed, like she said, the whole dragon storyline in the book is like 3 seconds. So this whole chapter, this whole chapter. So tell them what, we might as well just tell them the whole part from the movie since it was all of 3 seconds.
Yeah, well, okay, so the entire beginning, the library scene where they meet up with Hagrid and find out about the dragon and all this stuff, and then go to Hagrid's hut is literally just condensed into them going to Hagrid's hut. The library scene never happened. There are so many of those like kind of little things here and there that are just taken out of the movie. So basically they go to Hagrid's hut in the movie and
to talk about Flamel. They didn't discuss with him first. They went to his hut and were like, hey, because they found out who Flamel was, so they went to go ask him some questions.
Right. And then at that time, Malfoy watches, he's lurking, and he finds out about the dragon. And
well, they all find out at the same time.
Yeah.
Because how they find out is
instead of Malfoy finding out by eavesdropping, and then the back and forth after he hatches, like after Norbert hatches, then there's that whole like couple of weeks where they're waiting for Charlie's letter and stuff. Charlie's friends have no role in the movie at all. At all. So who gets rid of him in the movie?
Dumbledore.
So like sends him to Romania to live in a colony is what he says, what Hagrid says. That Dumbledore,
and then we assume that he's with Charlie anyway because Charlie works with dragons in Romania. So, but like they go to the cabin and the egg starts hatching while they're there, and they're like, "What is that?" That whole "what is that" conversation or whatever is happening as the egg is hatching suddenly, and then they look up and Malfoy's peeking in the window, and then the very next scene, after he runs away,
instead of waiting for his response. Ron never gets bit by Norbert. Like,
None of that
Ron
happens. The very next scene after you see Malfoy in the window is they're going on to do something else, and they ask Hagrid about Norbert, and he's like, "Oh, Dumbledore sent him away," and that's it.
Yeah.
That's the dragon scene.
Yep. And of course, this goes really without saying, but Peeves
No
is
Peeves.
not a character in the movies at all. At any
Right.
point in time, Peeves is not a character. So,
But it would have mattered here because they didn't sneak down to get the dragon anyway and get held up by Peeves. So
exactly, they didn't use their Harry's dad's invisibility cloak to go up to the tallest tower to meet Charlie, because none of that happened. And yeah, I mean, there's just so much. Pretty much this entire chapter is condensed into 3 seconds of a movie.
pretty much. So that is the book versus movie for chapter 14. So now let's move into our takeaways.
Okay.
You go first.
Just Hagrid. He is such a gentle giant. So hilarious. I mean, such an important character. And I feel like this in the book really shows character development for him, like a different side of him. Yeah, we know he's, big and soft and fluffy, and he likes animals because he's the gamekeeper and stuff, and he likes creatures. But in the book, we see a completely different side of him here, where throughout those couple of weeks where he's completely lost on his gamekeeping duties, instead focusing entirely on his new baby, you see a different side. And I wish we could have seen that in the movie.
He's such a dragon mom.
Yeah, I mean, but I wish we could have seen to the extent of crazy, even in just a 15-second clip or something. Hagrid with like feathers and brandy bottles everywhere, and like the hut in chaos, kind of like a little bit singed or something, and then
Him still just being like, "Oh, look at my baby."
Golden Trio looking at each other, and Ron with a little quippy remark or something. That would have been cool. Yeah.
They missed it. Hagrid was great. So interestingly enough, I'm going to go with the fact that, so you and I talked about book versus movie that will come up later, but it had to do with the enchantments around the Sorcerer's Stone. And I realized as Hagrid was naming everything off, because I was trying to think to myself which enchantment belonged to who,
right?
I realized that there are 7 security enchantments on the Sorcerer's Stone. And 7 is a significant number in all of this magical number. 7 all across the books, across many other places that you'll find out later. But I found it interesting that there are 7 enchantments on the Sorcerer's Stone. So there's Fluffy. Yeah, so as Hagrid was naming them off, he said, well, besides borrowing Fluffy from me, which would be 1, then there's McGonagall, Sprout, Flitwick, Quirrell, Snape, and Dumbledore himself, which makes for 7 enchantments on the Sorcerer's Stone. And so that was and then I was trying to think, wait, but what was Dumbledore's? I'm so dumb, literally, because it's super obvious when we get there, folks. But yeah, so that was my takeaway, was they snuck in. And it was because you know how we talk about every time we read them, we notice a little something else? I just happened to notice it when I was going over the chapter again today for the summary and was like, oh, 7 enchantments on the Sorcerer's Stone.
That's very interesting. I didn't recognize that either. I wouldn't have paid attention to like counting them.
Yeah, like I just, because like I said, I was trying to remember what the enchantments were and which ones are in the book versus which ones are in the movie. And so as they were listing them out, I realized in total there's 7.
That's crazy.
Right? All right.
That's very interesting.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Is it time to make magic?
You know what time it is.
Yay. It's time to make magic.
It is time to make magic.
Okay.
All right. Here we go. So, hold on, wait. Whoopsie. Okay. This is what I meant to do. Okay. Here we are.
So, in keeping in line with the idea of trying to make as many Christmas tree ornaments or just hanging ornaments as I can in this series, I decided to develop some book jackets for the books that were mentioned in this chapter. So I don't know, thought of what the jackets might look like and went online and did a little bit of research as to who were the authors of the books, if they were noted in like Harry Potter wiki fandom places, and like if they had any book jacket blurbs, because the wiki fandom typically does have a lot of that kind of stuff. And so I did some research and then developed these printable book jackets that once again I printed on photo paper to give it that shine. And we need string of whatever kind of string you want, glue, scissors, and then I used that it's like a board scraper in the culinary world, the thing on the far right, but I use it to make nice creases on the spine of the book jacket so that I don't fold it, and then you know how if it accidentally folds right away it's gonna fold funny, so I just use that. And I made 2 sizes, a smaller one and a bigger one, just in case, just to see what felt most natural. But by the way, I'm trying to keep all of the sizes uniform. So any of the book jackets that I've made previously, I keep them all the same size. Okay. So those are your materials. And then now cut up a bunch of paper to make the inside. I tried to make it just a tiny bit shorter and a tiny bit thinner than the actual book jacket so that I can fit the string and enough paper in there. And then I tried to give them a little character. So I thought, of course, a book about dragons that Hagrid would have would probably be a little bit destroyed, would have some singe marks, would have some parts kind of cut out, because even Hagrid said they're old, and Hagrid at this point, how old is Hagrid at this point? In his 50s? And so
probably.
Add the fact that Hagrid said that the books are old, that means that they're going to be you know, a little bit damaged, I guess. So
are they older than 50? Is he older than 50?
Well,
because I feel like I was going to say, in the next book, there are some events that happened 50 years ago, and I believe Hagrid was at school then.
Oh, so then they'd be 60-ish.
So
ish.
he was what, maybe fourth year?
Dang, Malfoy's
So
dad looks
12,
pretty
13,
good.
14. So they're maybe like 64-ish. I mean, that stands to reason because Dumbledore's over 100. And I don't think
Okay,
anybody knows how old McGonagall is.
so basically that means that Malfoy's dad looks really good for his age.
As does Hagrid. Hagrid don't look 64.
Well, he's a little more rough around the edges and wrinkly.
Yeah, but that's his dragon and friggin' gamekeeping and damn near living in the forest, not like aging because of age. You know what I mean?
It could also be part his blood.
His giant. Because he's not
Yeah.
even like gray, really. You know what I mean?
No, just wiry.
Yeah. And that's definitely part of the giant part, I think. Like the wild wiriness, but he's not even gray. So anyway,
I
anyway.
wonder if it's also because they can kind of transfigure themselves a little bit. Can you transfigure away wrinkles?
I don't know. Maybe.
Okay,
Maybe.
so
Because I also feel like the Weasleys are probably slightly older than them.
interesting.
I don't think the Weasleys were in school with the Malfoys. I think they were a little older, no?
But they just had Ginny. Ginny isn't even a first year yet at this point.
She's not
Molly
even 11.
has to be of childbearing age.
Yeah, but, well, I'm going to look. I'm going to look and see if I can figure out some ages. Anyway, back to magic.
So I also thought, well, if the book is lying around, maybe Norbert got a hold of it a little and maybe scratched one. So let's take a look a little bit closer at some of the details there. I scratched up the cover a little bit. I just used something sharp. I used actually my mechanical pencil without the lead sticking out and gave
Nice.
it 3 scratches.
Like a claw.
Yeah, like a little.
Yeah, because it
And that,
totally reminds me of that part in the Harry Potter ride at Universal where you see the dragon having scratched the roof.
yeah.
Yeah, that's totally what it reminds me of.
And that's the back of the jackets. And again, these are entirely my designs. They don't exist. I tried looking for some. There wasn't anything that I really thought was something that I would have wanted to use. A lot of them were the things that you can find online, especially for 1,000 magical herbs and fungi. Is more like Etsy purchased stuff that other people have made, and I don't want to, rip
Yeah,
off their
why buy
design.
something somebody else made when you can make your own?
Yeah. Well, I also just don't want to rip off anybody's designs. Like they have their own, and they should get credit for their own.
Well, yeah, but I
So,
mean, if it's made anyway, like it's not quote unquote Mina Lima, you know what I mean?
right.
Like the other books were the actual books.
Yeah.
If it's
These
not
are
something that's, yeah, if somebody else is going to make it, you might as well make your own.
Yeah. And
So,
that's what they look like. And there's the
yay.
singe mark. I was so scared of how the photo paper was going to burn, if it was going to be very quick burning or not. Also, because there's glue in between the pages. And so I was kind of doing it over my sink, prepared to have to just scrap the whole project in case I had to dunk it, submerge it underwater. But it did a pretty good job. And that is what the finished product is. And now I can show you a look. Here are 1,000 magical herbs and fungi.
Yay.
I don't know. Here, is it focusing properly? And then the back, that is a little blurb I got from like the wiki fandom pages. It's so funny. It says a comprehensive botanical A to Z guide of magical herbs and fungi for easy plant identification and application. I'm like, that's cute. And then dragon species of Great Britain and Ireland. And this is the back. And this says, this spectacular book lists all of the wild dragons living in Britain and Ireland. Ireland today, from the common Welsh green to the Hebridean blacks. So it's like kind of part of what it says in the actual chapter also. And then here's the bird one. And I really like that I made this egg see-through so that you can kind of see the dragon underneath it.
Cute.
And here's the back. Try to make it so that you can see it properly without the glare. Too much glare. Basically, it says, this book contains everything you need to know about breeding dragons, but never taming them. That's far too dangerous.
I mean, Ron said they couldn't really be tamed because Charlie and those guys are like professionally trained to deal with dragons, and Charlie's still got burn marks all over him. So, All right. Are you going to share the designs with me for Magic or Mischief Mondays?
Yes, of course.
All right. Then I guess that's it for magic. You know what it is. It's time for Halloween or Horcruxes. Bum, bum, bum.
All right.
All right.
What you got?
This week's Would You Rather. Because Hagrid has all the pets. Would you rather have as a pet a 3-headed dog or a dragon?
Well, taking into consideration my desire to stay on the planet longer and my fear of catching on fire and dying like that, I'm going to go with the 3-headed dog. I am not trying to light my house on fire, myself on fire, anything else on fire. I'm not trying to be bald from not having hair because it's caught on fire. And plus, I mean, I would imagine we don't know anything about Fluffy, right? We don't know if Fluffy is like a normal dog or a ravenous dog. Like, you know, we don't know anything about that. But you're a dog mom. I'm a dog mom. I like dogs. And if you can tame Fluffy, like, is that an okay word to use in this case? I don't know, because I don't know if it's possible. But how fun would it be to take Fluffy on walks and stuff? It would be super expensive though, right? Like, does it wait?
I don't know. It has all the same body. So even though it has 3 heads, wouldn't it eat for one dog rather than 3?
I guess it would eat for one dog, one stomach, right? And Fluffy likes music. So, I mean, no problem.
At all.
Can you just threaten him with like, Fluffy?
Well, supposedly music makes him go to sleep. So when it's time.
Right. But like, what if you've just got music on all day? Does that mean Fluffy's just going to be sleeping all day?
Maybe. Because you just raised another question for me. If Fluffy's up there in the 3rd floor corridor blocking the trap door to the Sorcerer's Stone, who the hell's feeding Fluffy?
Oh,
where is Fluffy going potty? Where's the pee-pee pad?
How about this? Where is Fluffy thereafter? Nary a mention.
I just assumed he runs wild in the forest like a lot of the other creatures.
That'll keep the students out of the forest.
Not if the Thestrals and the werewolves don't.
Yeah.
Okay, so same answer, but I worded it like this. Who the hell besides Hagrid wants a massive fire-breathing lizard that cannot be tamed?
What's the name of that kid that does the How to Train Your Dragon movies?
I don't know. I never watched them, but okay.
Okay, well, then that.
Okay, Hagrid and that cartoon kid. Second of all, I thought along the same... because How to Train Your Dragon was a cartoon. My kids must have never been into it because I never saw it.
It's cute.
Okay, that's fair enough. It must have been because I believe there was like a second one, right?
Yeah, I want to say that it's like a Viking clan, if I'm not mistaken. Like, that's your power or something that you can
train dragons.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Something.
Anywho, like you said, you're a dog mom. I'm a dog mom. We like dogs. So even if it wasn't a fire-breathing lizard, depending on what kind of animal it was, chances are I would choose the dog.
Yeah.
Just because dogs are awesome.
I'm allergic to cats.
I'm not, but cats are very particular.
Yeah, but like tigers are my favorite animal, but I would never, if you posed this question, 3-headed dog or a tiger or a sphinx or something, I mean, how cool would it be? But I can't live with them. I would be in trouble on a daily basis.
I used to want a black panther when I was younger as a pet, until it became like super popular to have them in music videos in like the 90s. And I was like, y'all made it passe. But to me, a black panther is the most beautiful, majestic animal when you watch it move and like, but now as an adult, knowing what I know, hell no, I wouldn't want one of those either. And again, if you give me an option between a dog and another animal, chances are I'll choose the dog.
I don't want to give you any ideas then, but you should look into black Maine Coons. So Laura's cat is a Maine Coon, Cobalt, and gorgeous cats, majestic, regal, beautiful, powerful, and just like, man, I'm so scared.
Yeah, that's how I feel about a black panther.
I'm scared.
So, yeah.
I'm scared of claws.
Yeah. So we both choose the dog.
Yes, Fluffy, all the way.
Sounds about right. Although if I got a choice, I'd probably take Fang.
Oh yeah, Fang is a sweetheart. I'll take Fang any day.
So still be bigger than me, but you know, just one head and a real sweetheart.
I have that's fine. As long as Fang doesn't mind that Maron would probably be barking at him for a long time until he gets used to him, I'm good with that.
Oh, that was good. All right, friend. Tell the people where to find you.
I am Poodle Noodle 82 at the Instagram place. And if you would like to know about my dogs, they are Poodle Noodles with a Z at the Instagram place. And if you would also like some merchandise, you can find it at our website, and you too can be the goat. Bye, magical friend.
Does my dog need an Instagram? Only because this time you said their Instagram, and when I sent a dog mom friend of it's a coworker of mine that said she likes her dogs better than her kids and her husband. And so I had sent her a picture of my dog, and she was like, oh, does she have an Instagram? I want to follow her. And I was like, no.
I love that you said that. And then in my head, I was like, oh, yeah, I chose my dogs over husband and kids.
I mean, lots of people do. There are people who prefer dogs to humans, and I fully understand it. You know how I feel about these damn humans. But now I got to think about it. Does Stormy need an Instagram?
I mean, I don't update it very much. I should. I have so many pictures and so much like media of theirs that I could upload, but I really I don't think I posted anything in a couple of years.
Well, we'll see. If my Instagram starts looking like it's Stormy's, maybe I'll give her her own.
That's the reason why I did it, because I was just posting stuff about the dogs on mine.
We'll see. We'll see. It depends. Depends on how much. Anyway, sorry, I took us off on a tangent. Hey, y'all. Hey, it's me, Christina McCrary on Facebook, aka Xtina McCrazy on TikTok and Instagram, host of McCrazy's Place podcast, co-host of Thursday Night Live, co-host of this, Your Lightning Bolt Chronicles. Find all things McCrazy, including my podcasts and merch, and there's interviews and guest spots, and it grows as I do other things at this link right here, msha.ke/Xtina McCrazy. As always, thank you for joining us. If it was your first time, we hope you enjoyed it, and we hope that you will return. If you are returning, thank you again for returning, and please continue to do so. I think that's it. That's it?
Yeah.
That's it. Bye, guys.
See you in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.